I got us some, yes. Over there in the corner. It's the first pile. Why, what's wrong?
Nothing, you just hearing some stuff.
On September 5th, 2025, at 12th and Chestnut Streets in Center City, Philadelphia, a confrontation ended in a fatal shooting. The victim, 29-year-old Lauren Jardine, was struck during an altercation involving 49-year-old John Kelly. Witnesses reported a dispute outside a 7-Eleven that escalated in seconds. Surveillance footage captured parts of the incident, showing movements and exchanges before the gunfire. Police later confirmed that the weapon used was stolen and that Jardine was not licensed to carry it. Kelly, described as homeless with a history of arrests for violent and disorderly conduct, was taken into custody at the scene. Prosecutors initially charged him with murder before reviewing evidence that shifted the case toward voluntary manslaughter.
We are learning much more tonight about a deadly encounter that played out on a Center City sidewalk late last week. Newly obtained surveillance video shows the moment it all unfolded last Friday evening at the corner of 12th and Chestnut. As the video shows, it began with a verbal argument and quickly escalated. The woman killed shot with a gun that she pulled out and aimed at the man, who then grabbed it from her and fired it at her. Tonight, the DA is downgrading charges that were just filed against the shooter.
The events raise questions that extend beyond one shooting. Why Jardine carried an illegal firearm, why Kelly remained on the streets despite repeated offenses, and how both lives collided at that intersection. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. Lauren Jardine was a 33-year-old resident of West Philadelphia. She was part of a close family structure, with siblings who remained an active part of her daily life. Her brother, Lammer, would later describe her in plain terms: outspoken, funny, intelligent, and protective. These were not vague character notes, but consistent identifiers of how she engaged with the people around her. She was known to speak up whenever she observed something wrong, and she did not avoid confrontation when she believed intervention was necessary. Her personal life in 2025 was defined by transition and effort. On the day of her death, she had attended a job fair. Evidence later collected showed her bag contained multiple job applications she had filled out during that event. The applications became part of the record because they revealed her focus on securing employment and progressing toward new opportunities. Jardine was also in the process of pursuing several vocational certifications. She had been training toward a commercial driver's license, a qualification that would allow her to work as a professional driver. Alongside this, she was studying for forklift operation credentials and HVAC repair certification. These parallel pursuits were concrete examples of her approach. She was not limiting herself to one career pathway, but seeking to acquire multiple technical skills that could broaden her employment opportunities. Her educational goals were not limited to vocational programs. Jardine was working toward her General Educational Development (GED) certificate. The GED would mark the completion of her secondary education, enabling her to access a wider range of job prospects and potentially further academic programs. She had previously spoken publicly at a city event supporting adult education and literacy, underscoring her involvement in that community and her recognition as someone making progress through structured programs. Taken together, these details show a profile of a woman in the midst of forward momentum. She had defined goals in technical training, immediate actions in job applications, and long-term efforts in academic completion. This convergence of factors created a portrait of determination. The final detail that framed her identity was her reputation among friends and family for speaking up when something was wrong. It was a characteristic that had been consistent throughout her life. It was not unusual for her to insert herself into disputes or problems in order to address them directly. On September 5th, 2025, this tendency would intersect with conflict that escalated beyond her control. The other party in this case was John Kelly, a 45-year-old man. At the time of the incident, He was reportedly homeless and often present around Center City, Philadelphia. His background contrasted sharply with Jardine's. Kelly had a documented history of arrests. His record included charges of robbery, aggravated assault, and drug possession. These were not minor offenses but markers of repeated involvement in violent and criminal activity. His reputation in Center City was also established. He was known to loiter outside 7-Eleven convenience stores, where disturbances were frequent. There were multiple prior incidents linking Kelly to harassment and threats in public spaces. Witness statements and police records identified him as a recurring figure at these locations, someone who often created unease or outright conflict. Earlier in 2025, Kelly had been arrested at another 7-Eleven location for criminal trespass and making terroristic threats. During that incident, he was also charged with harassment. The case proceeded quickly through the court system. By May of that year, he had pleaded guilty and was sentenced to probation. Despite this intervention, he remained present in Center City, continuing the same behaviors that had led to his arrest months earlier. Descriptions of Kelly's behavior by those who encountered him regularly aligned on several points. He was disruptive, volatile, and frequently in conflict with others. His interactions in public often escalated beyond verbal disputes, and his pattern of behavior suggested instability rather than isolated incidents. The contrast between Lauren Jardine and John Kelly is clear when their backgrounds are examined side by side. Jardine was engaged in educational programs, technical training, and job applications, each pointing toward long-term stability. Kelly, in contrast, was marked by instability, homelessness, repeated arrests, prior violence, and ongoing disruptive behavior in public settings. The profiles of these two individuals established the foundation of the case. On one side was a woman in pursuit of structured progress, gathering credentials and applications to advance her life. On the other side was a man defined by repeated legal conflicts, probation, and volatility in public spaces. These trajectories intersected on September 5, 2025, outside a 7-Eleven on 12th and Chestnut Streets. Jardine's presence at the location followed her attendance at a job fair. Kelly's presence was consistent with his routine pattern of lingering in Center City outside convenience stores. The encounter was not between strangers in neutral conditions. It was a meeting of a woman known for intervening when she believed she should, and a man known for conflict and erratic public behavior. This context is essential in understanding the escalation that followed. Jardine's possession of a firearm, later identified as stolen, introduced another complicating factor. Though she did not have a permit to carry, she had the weapon on her at the time of the confrontation. Kelly, meanwhile, carried a screwdriver, a common tool that became a weapon in the altercation. The convergence of her willingness to intervene and his tendency toward conflict created a rapid escalation. Each carried an object capable of causing harm. Each had a history that framed their decisions. Hers, a tendency to speak up and take action. His, a pattern of volatility and aggression. The outcome of that meeting would end Jardine's life and redefine Kelly's legal trajectory. On Friday, September 5, 2025, at approximately 5:45 p.m., the intersection of 12th and Chestnut Streets in Center City, Philadelphia, was active with evening rush hour movement. The area is surrounded by retail shops, office buildings, and restaurants. It is one of the busiest stretches of downtown Philadelphia. Pedestrians were moving in and out of the nearby 7-Eleven convenience store, waiting at crosswalks, and walking toward train stations and buses. The atmosphere of the location was typical for early evening in Center City. A heavy flow of foot traffic, commuters finishing work, students cutting across the public transportation, and shoppers leaving stores. Surveillance cameras were operating from multiple angles, mounted on convenience store, nearby businesses, and city traffic infrastructure. In addition, bystanders on the street had their cell phones out, some recording when they saw an argument developing. The initial conflict did not involve Lauren Jardine. The first visible disturbance was between a man, later identified as John Kelly, 45 years old, and his girlfriend. Witnesses state that the couple was engaged in a loud and aggressive argument outside the entrance to the 7-Eleven. The dispute drew attention from people walking past, and several paused to watch. At this point, Lauren Jardine, a 33-year-old woman from West Philadelphia, entered the scene. She was carrying a bag that contained personal items and paperwork from a job fair she had attended earlier that day, according to police and later reports. She was also in possession of a firearm, a handgun that would later be confirmed as stolen. Records show she did not hold a legal permit to carry it. She approached the location of the argument just as the verbal conflict between Kelly and his girlfriend escalated. Two objects would become central to the fatal confrontation. Witnesses reported that Kelly had a screwdriver in his hand. The tool was visible during the argument, and at least one bystander mentioned seeing him wave it or hold it in a manner that suggested possible use as a weapon. The screwdriver's presence raised immediate concern among those who saw it, as it added a physical threat to the verbal conflict. Jardine had a handgun in her possession. Investigators later confirmed that the weapon had been reported stolen in connection with a prior vehicle theft incident. Jardine did not have a concealed carry permit or license for the firearm. The presence of this weapon significantly altered the direction of the confrontation. The critical question in the case became, who brandished their weapon first? Some witnesses claimed Kelly first threatened with the screwdriver. Others stated Jardine was the first to pull the gun. Surveillance and cell phone footage captured portions of the event, but the footage did not present an entirely clear, uninterrupted sequence. This ambiguity led to conflicting interpretations and became a central factor in later legal proceedings. What began as a verbal dispute quickly developed into physical conflict. Witnesses described raised voices, threats, and sudden movement. At the moment Jardine engaged with Kelly, the situation shifted from argument to confrontation. Video evidence and eyewitness accounts align on one key point. A physical struggle began between Lauren Jardine and John Kelly over firearm. Jardine had drawn or displayed the gun, and Kelly attempted to gain control of it. The two grappled in close quarters, each trying to overpower the other. During the struggle, several critical moments occurred in rapid succession. The screwdriver in Kelly's hand became visible as he moved against Jardine. Some witnesses believed he raised it in a threatening manner. Others believed he used it defensively as the fight centered on the gun. The gun was raised and pulled in different directions during the struggle. At times, witnesses later reported, it appeared in Jardine's control. At other points, Kelly seemed to have partial hold of it. The situation reached a breaking point when shots were fired. Witness accounts and audio from nearby surveillance indicate that multiple shots rang out. Estimates from witnesses ranged up to 6 rounds fired. Lauren Jardine was struck by bullets. Records later confirmed that she suffered at least. One gunshot wound her lower back. One gunshot wound her hand. The combination of injuries caused her to collapse on the pavement outside the 7-Eleven. Following the gunfire, John Kelly attempted to distance himself from the weapon. Reports indicate that he tried to dispose of the firearm by placing it inside a nearby mailbox. Investigators later recovered the weapon from that location. Despite the attempt to hide the gun, Kelly did not flee far. He remained in the vicinity as the scene drew police response. The shooting occurred in a crowded intersection at rush hour. The sound of multiple shots caused immediate panic among bystanders. People ran in different directions, some seeking cover behind vehicles, others fleeing down the street. Several individuals pulled out cell phones, capturing short videos of the incident and its immediate aftermath. The combination of surveillance footage and cell phone recordings would later become central evidence in reconstructing the timeline of events. Within minutes, Philadelphia police officers arrived on scene. Their actions unfolded in the following sequence. Securing the area, officers moved pedestrians away from the immediate site of the shooting and cleared a path for emergency responders. Apprehending Kelly, police located John Kelly near the scene and placed him under arrest without further incident. Recovering the weapon, officers retrieved the firearm from the mailbox where it had been discarded. Collecting the screwdriver in Kelly's possession was taken as evidence. Jardine, who was critically wounded, received immediate medical attention before being transported to Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. She was later pronounced dead.
We are learning much more tonight about a deadly encounter that played out on a Center City sidewalk late last week. Newly obtained surveillance video shows the moment it all unfolded last Friday evening at the corner of 12th and Chestnut. As the video shows, it began with a verbal argument and quickly escalated. The woman killed shot with a gun that she pulled out and aimed at the man, who then grabbed it from her and fired it at her. Tonight, the DA is downgrading charges that were just filed against the shooter. Action News reporter Annie McCormick live in Center City tonight with all the latest. Annie.
Yeah, Brian, in light of this new video that you're about to see portions of, the district attorney announced today that he is downgrading the suspect's most serious charge of murder to voluntary manslaughter. New video shows the final moments of 33-year-old Lauren Jardine. Watch as a disagreement between Jardine and the suspect escalates. Jardine pulls a gun. Then it appears the suspect pulled a screwdriver. The two tussle. Then the suspect wrestles Jardine's gun away. We stopped the video before the shooting. Police say he shot her multiple times. Additional video taken by someone in a nearby building also shows part of the crime. Police arrested and charged John Kelly. This all unfolded just before 6 p.m. Friday at busy 12th and Chestnut Street. Jardine's family shared these photos with Action News. Just last year, she spoke at a city event for adult education and family literacy. There, she talked about working to earn her GED after her grandmother passed, saying, quote, "Now more than ever, I'm sincere and dedicated to earning my GED for both her and me, so one day I can start my own business." According to 6ABC's data team, of all the shootings across Philadelphia, over the last 12 months, less than 5% of the victims were shot in the 9th District, which covers Center City. Some nearby residents tell Action News the suspect has been known to cause problems at this intersection. This man described the suspect's behavior on the day of the crime.
When I was walking to the gym, he was screaming down the street.
Now, Brian, the video also shows another woman trying to stop Kelly. Police believe that that was Kelly's girlfriend, and what started all of this was that Jardine tried to stop a fight between the couple. For now, reporting live in Center City, Annie McCormick, Channel 6, Action News. Brian.
Yeah, that video is incredibly difficult to watch. Annie, thank you.
When the shots were fired at approximately 5:45 p.m. on September 5th, 2025, the scene at 12th and Chestnut Streets in Center City, Philadelphia, quickly shifted from an argument to a medical emergency. Witnesses described seeing Lauren Jardine collapse on the sidewalk after being struck by gunfire. She sustained multiple gunshot wounds, including one to the lower back and another to her hand. Police officers stationed nearby responded within minutes. First responders secured the area, detained John Kelly, and attempted to assist Jardine at the scene before medical transport arrived. Emergency medical services transferred her to Thomas Jefferson University Hospital, one of the closest major trauma facilities in Philadelphia. At the hospital, trauma doctors began immediate resuscitation efforts. Despite attempts to stabilize her condition, the wounds were critical. The official time of death was recorded at 7:18 p.m. on the same evening. The Philadelphia Medical Examiner's office later confirmed the cause of death as multiple gunshot wounds. This finding was consistent with reports from witnesses who recalled hearing several rounds discharged during the altercation. The official note classified the manner of death as homicide, and the details were forwarded to law enforcement for integration into the ongoing criminal investigation. John Kelly, age 45, was arrested at the scene, according to the arrest affidavit. He attempted to discard the firearm used in the shooting by placing it inside a nearby mailbox before officers recovered it. Police records indicate that Kelly was immediately charged with the following offenses: murder, based on the fatal shooting of Jardine; firearms offenses, related possession and use of a firearm without legal authorization; possession of an instrument of crime, tied to his possession of a screwdriver, which witnesses said he brandished during the confrontation; tampering with evidence, due to his attempt to hide the gun after the shooting. The initial announcement of charges was made by Philadelphia police late that evening. At the time, officials presented the case as a straightforward homicide in which Kelly had intentionally shot Jardine during a confrontation. Within days, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office received new evidence that altered the trajectory of the case. Surveillance cameras in the vicinity, as well as cell phone recordings from bystanders, revealed additional details about the incident. According to prosecutors, This evidence showed that Jardine was the one who first displayed the firearm during the encounter. Video footage, reviewed frame by frame, indicated that a struggle followed between Jardine and Kelly over control of the weapon. During the struggle, the firearm discharged multiple times. The footage also confirmed that Kelly held a screwdriver during the altercation, though prosecutors noted that the screwdriver was not used to inflict physical harm. Because of these findings, the district attorney's office downgraded the murder charge to voluntary manslaughter. The change reflected the legal interpretation that Kelly had not planned or premeditated Jardine's killing, but had instead engaged in a confrontation that escalated to deadly violence. Other charges, including firearms violations, possession of an instrument of crime, and tamper with evidence, remained in place. A preliminary hearing was scheduled for September 22, 2025. At this hearing, prosecutors would be required to present sufficient evidence to establish that the case should move forward to trial. The defense was expected to challenge the interpretation of the video evidence and argue that Kelly acted in response to Jardine's actions when she produced a firearm. Potential outcomes of the hearing included the case advancing toward a full trial, the possibility of plea negotiations, or further adjustments to the charges depending on additional evidence presented. The case against John Kelly quickly became centered on evidence, interpretation of actions, and the credibility of witness accounts. Several elements remained under dispute. One of the central questions was who escalated the confrontation by brandishing a weapon first. Witnesses gave conflicting statements. Some stated that Kelly became aggressive toward his girlfriend and waved a screwdriver in a threatening manner. Others claimed that Jardine intervened and, during the verbal exchange, produced a firearm. Surveillance video provided prosecutors with partial clarity. According to their analysis, the footage indicated that Jardine drew the gun during the incident. This detail played a key role in the decision to downgrade the charges from murder to voluntary manslaughter. However, prosecutors acknowledged that the footage did not capture every angle, leaving some ambiguity regarding the sequence of actions between Jardine and Kelly. Investigators discovered that the firearm recovered from the scene had been reported stolen in connection with a prior vehicle theft. Jardine did not have a permit to carry the weapon. How she came into possession of the stolen firearm remained an unresolved question. The origin of the gun added another layer of complexity to the case. Prosecutors had to consider whether Jardine's possession of the weapon would influence the legal interpretation of the confrontation. Defense attorneys were expected to argue that Kelly reacted to being threatened with an illegal firearm, while prosecutors maintained that his actions during the struggle directly caused her death. Witness reports varied on the number of shots fired. Several bystanders stated they heard as many as 6 rounds discharged in rapid succession. Others recalled fewer. Ballistic analysis was conducted to determine the exact number of rounds fired and the trajectory of the bullets. The medical examiner confirmed that Jardine sustained 2 gunshot wounds, one to her lower back and another to her hand. These findings were consistent with reports of multiple discharges, though not all rounds struck her. The analysis of bullet casings collected from the scene was expected to clarify the total number of shots fired. The availability of surveillance footage was a critical factor in shaping the case. Cameras in the vicinity, along with recordings from mobile phones, provided multiple perspectives. Prosecutors emphasized that the video evidence showed Jardine with a gun in hand prior to the struggle. The defense was likely to question the interpretation of the footage, pointing to gaps in visibility and the chaotic nature of the incident. Both sides recognized that the recordings would serve as central exhibits during future legal proceedings. In the days following the incident at 12th and Chestnut Streets, Lauren Jardine's family provided the first insights into her character. Her brother, Lamar Jardine, explained to reporters that his sister was not someone who would remain quiet when faced with wrongdoing. He described her as outspoken, attentive to her surroundings, and willing to intervene if she believed someone was being mistreated. His words framed the situation not as an accident of presence, but as a reflection of Lauren's nature. She was known to speak up, and according to her brother, that pattern was consistent throughout her life. This testimony from a family member gave context to why she may have engaged during the altercation between John Kelly and his girlfriend for investigators and the public. It helped explain the possibility that Lauren inserted herself into a conflict she was not initially a part of. While the exact sequence of actions is disputed, the description from her brother aligns with reports that she may have stepped forward when she saw tension escalating outside the 7-Eleven. The family's comments also highlighted the abrupt ending of Lauren's personal efforts toward education and employment. They referenced her work in literacy programs, her attempts to earn certifications, and her visit to a job fair on the same day as the shooting. By situating her goals alongside her final actions, the family presented a picture of a woman in transition, attempting to create a path forward despite personal challenges. The area where the shooting occurred, near the intersection of 12th and Chestnut Streets in Center City, Philadelphia, has a documented history of disturbances. The location is a high-traffic commercial block with 7-Eleven serving as a constant gathering spot. Residents and business owners have reported recurring problems involving loitering, verbal altercations, petty theft, and harassment in the vicinity. Police incident logs show repeated calls for disorderly conduct at or near the store. Several community members have stated that the specific corner had become a regular site of conflict. The combination of heavy foot traffic, late-night operations of nearby businesses, and the presence of individuals struggling with homelessness or addiction contributed to an environment where tensions could easily escalate. The September 5th shooting was not the first act of violence at the location, though it became the most fatal. The suspect, John Kelly, was reported as homeless at the time of the incident. His criminal record revealed multiple arrests for robbery, aggravated assault, and drug possession, along with more recent arrests for harassment and trespass. In April 2025, he had been arrested at another 7-Eleven for threatening staff and customers, later pleading guilty and receiving probation. This background brought questions regarding the overlap of homelessness, untreated mental health issues, and recurring criminal behavior. Residents noted that individuals in unstable living conditions were frequently seen around Center City, particularly near convenience stores and transit hubs. Concerns grew that repeated disturbances involving the same individuals were not adequately addressed. Kelly's continued presence on the streets despite prior arrests suggested gaps in monitoring and rehabilitation efforts. The shooting highlighted how unresolved cycles of homelessness and crime could escalate into more dangerous encounters. While many homeless individuals do not engage in violence, the combination of instability, untreated mental illness, and prior violent history, in Kelly's case, place him at a higher risk of reoffending. Another community concern arose from the revelation that the firearm involved in the shooting was stolen. Authorities confirmed that Lauren Jardine was not licensed to carry a gun and that the weapon had been linked to a prior theft. The circumstances under which Jardine acquired the weapon remain unclear. The fact that an unlicensed individual carried a stolen firearm raised questions about how illegal weapons circulate in Philadelphia. Local officials pointed to broader citywide issues. Firearms stolen from vehicles, homes, and stores often reappear in violent incidents. In this case, the gun added complexity, as its possession by Jardine introduced legal consequences even before the fatal confrontation. Community members expressed concern that both individuals in the altercation, the homeless suspect with a screwdriver and the unlicensed victim with a stolen firearm, represented intersecting dangers. Neither was in a legal or safe position, yet the public space became the stage for their conflict. Lauren's involvement in adult education programs became a point of attention in community discussions. She had participated in literacy events, spoken publicly about her journey toward earning her GED, and was known within local education networks. Her educators and peers described her as someone working to complete certifications that could lead to stable employment. Her death symbolized the abrupt end of educational progress and the vulnerability of individuals attempting to reestablish their lives. For literacy and workforce development programs, her case became a reminder of the obstacles faced by adult learners balancing personal struggles, limited resources, and dangerous environments. Initially, John Kelly was charged with murder. However, after prosecutors reviewed surveillance and bystander footage, the charge was downgraded to voluntary manslaughter. The footage reportedly showed Jardine producing the firearm during the confrontation, complicating the narrative of intent. The distinction between murder and voluntary manslaughter lies in intent and circumstances. Murder requires proof of intent to kill or reckless disregard for life. Voluntary manslaughter, by contrast, applies when a killing occurs during sudden conflict, often when both parties are engaged in aggressive actions. Prosecutors concluded that the evidence suggested a struggle rather than a premeditated act. The downgrade in charges reflected the legal interpretation that Kelly's actions occurred in the context of mutual escalation. This legal adjustment raised debates about accountability and whether the justice system adequately addressed the broader risks presented by Kelly's prior behavior. A central systemic question concerned how John Kelly, with a history of arrests and convictions, remained free at the time of the shooting. His April 2025 arrest for trespass and threats, which resulted in probation, illustrated a pattern of lenient outcomes for repeat offenders. Critics argue that the system failed to intervene effectively. Instead of mandated treatment, incarceration, or structured supervision, Kelly returned to the streets. The lack of long-term monitoring for individuals with violent histories raised concerns about the thresholds for removing high-risk offenders from public spaces. Equally troubling was the discovery that Lauren Jardine possessed a stolen firearm. No clear record has surfaced explaining how she obtained it. She did not have a permit, and the weapon had been linked to a previous car theft. This fact created questions about accessibility of stolen weapons in Philadelphia. Was she carrying the gun for protection, for intimidation, or as an unintentional consequence of proximity to illegal networks? Without answers, the public is left with speculation. What is known is that the presence of the stolen gun transformed a verbal argument into a fatal shooting. The intersection of poverty, instability, and weapon access became evident in this case. A man with long criminal history involving violence and drugs clashed with a woman striving for personal advancement, yet armed illegally. Their meeting point was a busy commercial street where bystanders were placed at risk. This incident illustrated how unresolved systemic issues, homelessness, untreated mental health conditions, circulation of stolen firearms, and ineffective probation monitoring combine to create unpredictable and dangerous outcomes in public spaces. Despite the extensive coverage, several unanswered questions remain. What led Jardine to carry the stolen gun? Investigators have not disclosed how she came into possession of the weapon. Without this information, her intentions cannot be fully understood. Could Kelly have been stopped earlier? His repeated arrests, combined with prior violent behavior, raised the issue of whether stricter intervention could have prevented this confrontation. The case of Lauren Jardine is not solely about one victim and one perpetrator. It reflects broader systemic challenges: the persistence of illegal firearms in circulation, the failure to adequately address homelessness and mental health, and the complexities of legal definitions in cases of sudden violence. Two lives on opposite trajectories collided. One individual pursued certifications and a GED in an effort to rebuild stability. The other carried the weight of repeated offenses and instability, lingering at the edges of society. Their meeting produced a violent outcome that neither community nor family can fully reconcile. This story forces examination of what conditions allowed the encounter to unfold in the way it did. It reveals gaps in supervision, enforcement, and prevention. It raises questions about how many similar encounters may occur in cities where systemic issues remain unresolved. Ultimately, the death of Lauren Jardine illustrates the risks at the intersection of poverty, instability, and access to weapons. It underscores a need for clearer strategies to address both prevention and accountability before another public space becomes a site of unavoidable death. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.